And now, a story from the Appleseed.
This is an Armenian folktale, and I found it in a book called The Olive Fairy Book, edited and compiled by Andrew Lang. And you can find it online, and you can read it as well. The woman lived on a good parcel of land. She had her own home. She had orchards, and she had grain that was grown, a good-sized vegetable garden, and she had a nice stream that went by her. She had cows and she had horses. She was a kind woman. She gave to the villagers, and although the villagers often thought how lucky she was, she gave well and she didn't put herself above anybody. But she also didn't marry. As she got older, she became lonely. She really wished that she had someone to pass down what she had, too. Well, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, there was a farmer and a wife in a small house, and their house burned to the ground. And they burned with it. But their child lived. He was a boy. He was about 12 years old. And the woman immediately opened her arms and her house and thought, yes, come live with me. And so the boy came to live with her. And it wasn't long before she realized this was a horrible idea. He was not the most easygoing kid you've ever seen. He was rather obstinate, stubborn-willed, difficult, didn't listen, didn't show up when he was supposed to, and he was a terror. But she loved him anyhow. She loved and she poured that love out as much as she could all the time. He did not change. He grew up, he began to hang around with a group of boys that were just as obstinate, just as stubborn-willed, just as difficult, and he became a man. And not only was he obstinate, stubborn-willed, and difficult, he was lazy. He didn't even go get a job. He stayed at home with his mom until he began to start dating. And so then he met a woman. The mother was finally happy because she knew that marriage would calm him down. New word on the street, if you hadn't heard. Marriage does not do that to people. And so he was still obstinate, stubborn-willed, difficult, and lazy in his mother's house with a wife who had to go to work in order to help out. And he didn't change. And then she had a baby. They had a baby. And he was no kinder to the baby until he became abusive and harmful to both his wife and his child. Oh, the mother had it one day. Had it. And so one day when he came in yelling and screaming at the top of his lungs after he had come back home after carousing with his friends, roaming around and doing things with his obstinate friends, she reached over into the corner and she picked up a steel cane that had just been sitting there. Just a cane that someone walks with, but a steel cane. She picked it up and she knocked him over the head with it. And he turned into a donkey. And she said, now, you will be beat, and you will be put hard to work, and you will be difficult, and people will be difficult with you. You will see what it feels like. And not knowing what to do, well, the door was open, and out he went. And there he stood in front of the house, not knowing what to do, because he was a donkey now. And so a man walked by and said, well, whose donkey are you? No one seems to own you. And so he took the donkey, and he left with it. And indeed, that donkey was put to work. He was beat daily. He was worked hard. He could not be lazy at all. And that stubborn streak, well, the master of the donkey was just as stubborn. But after 7 years, he turned back into himself. And then there was a knock, 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 knock on the door. And the wife, who had moved in with the mother, still with the mother, and opened the door, saw her husband and slammed the door shut. What should we do? And the mother said, this is his home. He has to come back. Because the mother had said, when he left, the mother had said to herself, I hope he changes. I hope he changes. But he may not. So the door was opened, and he came in. A day, one full day, was all the goodness he had inside of him. And he went back to being obstinate and stubborn-willed and difficult and lazy and hanging out with his friends anymore. And then he told his friends what happened to him and that he'd been turned into a donkey and treated badly. And all his friends said, "Oh, well, you should just make them really pay for it now." And he became more cruel. He moved out his wife and his child, and now in their own home together, he was even more cruel. Until one day, the wife and the child ran out of their house, ran to the mother-in-law's house and told what had been happening to them. And the man came in after. She picked up that steel cane and hit him upside the head, and he turned into a wolf. And she said, "You will be hunted day and night, and you will feel it. You will be hungry, and you will understand it." And he leapt out the window, and he went into the woods. And he was hunted day and night. He could barely sleep. He didn't know what to do next. And that was his life for 7 years. And the mother had said as he went out, "I hope he changes." But he might not. 7 years later, he came back. And he was worse than ever, telling his friends what he had become, telling how life was so difficult. He would look at his mother, he would look at the wife and the child, and he grew angry all the time. Angry, 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 until one day he exploded and he came for his mother with his hands out as if he would choke her or smack her. And she leaned back and she picked up that steel cane and hit him again. And she said, "This will be your last." And he turned into a crow. And out the window he went. They all breathed a sigh of relief. But he went, the crow did, to his friends. And through some interpretation, he was able to help his friends understand who he was. And it was the mother who had done it. And his friends got up from their place that they had been sitting, and they said, "We'll do something about her." And with the crow leading the way, the boys, men, they came down the road, ready to get to that woman. And the door they threw open, but the woman was ready. She had her steel cane, and she hit each one of them. And they became a flock of crows, which I think is actually called a murder. And they flew about. Fortunately, they were no longer men. They would sometimes drop down where people were, take people's things, and people would shoo them away or shoot at them, and that's how they lived their life. And the wife was sad, and she looked at her mother-in-law and said, "Why? Why didn't he change?" And she said, "Experience is not what changes people. Every individual must choose to be changed by experience."
Thanks for joining us for A Story from the Appleseed.